My name is Bobby Hollingsworth. I will be your moderator this morning for our Neapolitan Thursday morning presentation, a spring of collaboration, a NISO update of strategy, trends, industry collaboration on discovery and interchange and more. Okay, our presenters this morning are Christine Stone, Julie Ju, Jason Price, and Gail Bequette. And we're going to start off with Christine. What the process is, they're going to speak for about 35, 40 minutes, and then afterwards we'll open it up for questions.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. Is that okay? Because it's no. Okay. So I need to take this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit far away. Okay. Yeah, maybe I just hold it. Okay, I hope that this is better. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this NISO session. As Bobby said, my name is Christine Stone. I'm a Director of Product Management at Ex Libris. I'm responsible for discovery. I'm also the co-chair of IDI, the Information Discovery and Interchange Topic Committee at NISO, and that's really in which capacity I'm doing the presentation today. So let me switch to if I find the arrows. To the agenda for today. We have 4 presentations. I'm starting with the introduction. I'm going to talk about NISO as a platform of collaboration, because this is really what NISO is about. It's about collaborating between different stakeholders in this industry in a kind of neutral platform where we can achieve things that we can't achieve as individual institutions or individuals. And then I'm going to talk about the strategic considerations that went into the strategy paper that NISO published earlier this year. And specifically about the information discovery and interchange, because obviously this is my focus here. And then we have 3 presentations which are a little bit more focused on specific work items. There's ODI by Julie, KBAR Automation by Jason, and then Gael is going to talk about NISO transfer. Let me start with the structure of NISO, just for those of you who are not so familiar with that. I'm just assuming that everybody knows what NISO is. Is that kind of a fair assumption? But that's not, okay, I see lots of people nodding. We have a number of work items which are divided into the working groups and which are handled by working groups and the standing committees. That's on the bottom of the slide. So there are things like KBAR and ODI, which we're going to talk about today, and also a few other work items which either are active or which are looked after by standing committees who take care of market education and other things that are important for long-term preservation of the work items and the recommendations. They are divided, or they are under the topic committees, and we have 3 of those. We have the Information Creation and Curation, ICC, topic committee. Then we have Information Discovery and Interchange, which I'm going to talk a little bit more later on. And of course, the Information Policy and Analysis, IPA, which are responsible for the individual work items. They're organized under the Architecture Committee, so the co-chairs of the topic committees are automatically members of the Architecture Committee, which is then directly under the Board of Directors. Just to kind of illustrate a little bit more where the work items fit that we're going to talk about today, 3 of them, ODI, KBAR, and KBAR Automation, are under IDI. And then the transfer project is under in IPA, the Information Policy Analysis Committee. Focusing a little bit more on information discovery and interchange, there are a number of things we are concerned with. It's primarily issues regarding finding exchange of data, and that's really to optimize discovery in different ways. So it includes discovery system and also actually knowledge bases. If you think about KBAR, the transfer of data between these different systems, data quality, but also the process of transferring the data between the different stakeholders. We also discuss user experience. I think this is really important because we talk a lot about data, but in the end of the day, this is really about the user discovering the material that they need. So I think if we talk a lot about data, we also need to talk about the user experience, and we added this also to our strategic consideration for IDI. And then web services, of course, which are a connection point for any of these items. Oh, that's got a little bit messed up, that slide. This is just to illustrate who's on the roster for IDI. It's really a lot of different companies and organizations which are represented on this topic committee, and I think that is also kind of illustrating that people are really of very different organizations work together here to achieve something for the entire community, and work together to actually make the data flow better, provide recommendations to how data flow is working or should be working, and also look at transparency and other topics in that regard. The NISO is a membership organization, so usually the people who are on the committees are representing the institutions who are members, but actually you can also collaborate with NISO if you're not coming from a member institution, and we encourage to do that. You don't need to be a member of a member institution or associated with a member institution necessarily to do work on any of the committees at NISO. And if you have any ideas and you think you can contribute something, then we really encourage you to step up and talk to us about it. We always encourage people to come and work with us. Coming to the strategic considerations, we put a lot of thought and discussion into what we wanted to have in the strategy paper. This is not necessarily about specific work items. Actually, this is something that we are discussing, and then sometimes this leads to work items, but not necessarily. This is also about discussing what's going on in the industry and then relating it to work that might be need to be done by NISO, gaps that we find specifically in data transfer or how data is being displayed in different places. So we generally divided this into 6 areas. One is discovery of open access and free resources, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the next slide. Transparency in discovery, ODI is very much involved in that, and Julie is going to talk about this more. Discovery of non-traditional content forms, that's actually something that I'm very interested in, because I think that is something that is becoming more and more something that we should talk about, an important topic. We tend to talk about journal articles and books and book chapters, but we're moving towards having more and more other material that becomes important to our users and that we need to reflect in our discovery systems and also in the data flow between the different systems. Data quality published in Exchange is, of course, always a topic, also a topic that ODI is concerned about, and KBAR obviously as well. Systems interoperability and authentication APIs is part of that, and then also enhancing the user experience. And I said it before, I think this is becoming a more and more important aspect that we need to discuss in every context of data quality, metadata flow. It's just important how this is actually reflected for the user in the end of the day. So user experience is a really important part of that. We can't talk just about data if we don't talk about the user. I also put the URL here to the full paper. So if you want to read all the details and also the strategic directions for the other topic committees, then I encourage you to download the full document and look at the details there. There are 3 items here I picked out because I wanted to talk about them a little bit more and give you some more details about them. The first one is discovery of open access and free resources. I think we all know that the amount of free resources is increasing all the time. And I'm not just talking about journal articles, which are becoming available as open access, but also resources in institutional repositories and completely different resource types, open educational resources, open textbooks, a lot of other material that is suddenly available to us, and we're really not set up, at least in my opinion, to deal with this properly or to describe them properly with metadata that is usable across many different systems. So metadata quality and sharing is an important part of this. In my personal experience with discovery, it's very problematic to deal, for example, with institutional repositories because the data quality is just very, very different. And that's not just the descriptive metadata, but it's also the indication if something is in fact open access or not. I had data from institutional repositories which were flagged as open access, and there was a link, and when I clicked on the link, I got to the repository very nicely, and then it said to me, unfortunately, this item is only available for members of this institution. So this is obviously not open access. And you get this a lot. There's a lot of differences in quality and in how things are flagged. Some years ago, NISO had a work item to create a flag or a tag for metadata that's free. It's called ALI, Access and License Indicator. It has a tag called free to read. We on purpose didn't define it as open access because open access seems to be kind of a taken term, and you're not quite sure if the interpretation of everybody is the same. So free to read just means I can access it and I can read it. It doesn't affect text mining or any of the other rights that might be involved with a full text. It also has a tag for a link to the the full rights of that document, actually. It's not just a free to read tag. But in my opinion, it has just not been implemented enough or consistently across the different institutions. Specifically, institutional repositories are, I think, a problem. And I think often it's also just lack of understanding from people who are running institutional repositories how this is reflected or how this content is reflected in other systems across the entire industry and not just in your individual institutional repository. So I think there's a lot of work to be done here because it's fantastic material that is becoming available in these repositories, but to make it available, the data has to be right. Users expect one-stop access to content, and that can actually lead to unintentional consequences, like they're saving their PDFs somewhere and they're sharing them, violating copyright on the way. So you have some sort of unintentional pirate site somewhere. So I think that's also something that we need to take into account when we're discussing access to open access material or to content in general. I'd already touched on the consistency. The other topic I came across also with institutional repositories specifically is the issue of versioning. There are versions which are published, of course, past peer review. Then there are pre-peer reviewed versions. There are submitted manuscripts, etc. So if you look at it from a discovery system point of view, it's actually not quite clear what version I look at. I have the metadata. I only see that something is available, but I only see what version it is if I click on it and I actually get to the website where the item is being stored. That can be problematic sometimes because it's never really consistently flagged. Everybody is kind of using a different way to flag these versions, and it's just not reflected on the place where the user accesses or finds this item first. So again, this is something to address, I think, for the future. It's something that we need to discuss. I think it's great that these versions become available, but we just have to be sure that the user knows which version they're looking at. Oh, okay, so I need to rush a little bit. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Okay, so the two other items are discovery of non-traditional content forms, something that I'm particularly interested in because there is so much fantastic material becoming available, audiovisual material, teaching and learning material, all material that is really important for different parts of the academic work, for students, for researchers, etc. But we need to make sure that this is actually reflected properly in the places where users go and find things. And we cannot just assume that the metadata rules that we followed in the past are also applying to the new material. So I think there are kind of new considerations needed for that material. And the last item or last topic I would like to talk about is enhancing the user experience. I already mentioned it. There are a number of things that we thought were important in this arena, the use of linked data, for example, and the semantic web, making sure, for example, that items the user is searching for or items that we want the users to see, that it's available where the user is. So that is one of the aspects of that. Creating context. I think the word context is becoming more and more important in discovery. Context about material and context also around the user. Context about material means that you have references, you have links to research data sets, etc. So you create a context around a specific item. But you can also create context about the user, and that is really about personalization, which is then also touching privacy, of course, and that's a whole different discussion, which we can probably discuss for an hour or so. So I'm almost out of time. Just to mention it, the use of visualization of data and material connections in discovery is becoming more and more important, which is also touching context, and then discovery and use of annotations on information resources. And with that, I'm passing it on to Julie, who is going to talk about ODI.
I'm Julie Zhu, IEEE's Discovery Service Relations Manager, and I'm also in NISO's ODI Topic Committee, ODI Standing Committee, and the KBAR Automation Working Group. According to a 2018 ODI survey of libraries, 95% of the close to 500 libraries responded to the survey are using one of the 4 major discovery service tools, EDS, Primo, Summon, and Voca Discovery. Today, I will provide some background information of the Open Discovery Initiative, the resources available on the NISO ODI website, and the new ODI Implementation Guide for content providers, and some ongoing work of the ODI Standing Committee. So when users search content in the Discovery Service interface from a library website, they usually are not aware of the complex workflows behind. First, content providers need to provide content to the Discovery Service providers. Second, the Discovery Service vendors need to index the content, program search and ranking algorithms, and provide linking options. The linking options could be direct links, DOI links, or open URL links. Third, the libraries need to select the correct collections from the Discovery Index and the correct holdings and linking targets from the knowledge base. They also need to configure other systems like EasyProxy correctly. After all these stars are aligned correctly, may the discovery and the linking process be successful. Then the Discovery Service vendors need to provide some discovery usage reports to content providers, and it is not easy for hosting platforms to track visits and usages coming out of discovery tools. So ODI was formed to help make the process more open and transparent. It helps streamline the content delivery process. It helps make the discovery content more transparent. That, for instance, which content providers are sending what collections to which discovery vendors, and whether the collections are fully indexed or not. As there are several ways to provide linking, ODI hopes to make sure that the links go to the library's subscribed copies, and that libraries have enough control over the linking options. ODI also works to help discovery service providers provide more meaningful usage stats to publishers and libraries. So in 2014, NISO published the ODI recommended practice. Then the ODI Standing Committee was formed to promote the adoption of the recommended practice, to support content providers and discovery providers during the process of adoption, and to provide a forum for ongoing discussions of discovery and linking issues, and to determine the next steps for ODI work. So the committee includes members from 3 major stakeholder groups: libraries, content providers, and discovery service providers. We meet every month as a group, and there are also several subgroups meeting regularly on different topics, such as promotion, content coverage, usage discovery, the usage stats, etc. The ODI website provides resources for all stakeholders. However, according to the recent library survey, over 90% of the librarians surveyed are not familiar with what ODI does, and are not familiar and are not aware of the ODI resources available. So we are reorganizing the content on the website to be more stakeholder specific, so that people can find the resources useful to them more easily. Here are some general resources. There's the NISO ODI website, looks like, and here's the ODI recommended practice. In 2017, last year, NISO commissioned Marshall Breeding to write a white paper on the future of the library resource discovery. The paper was very well received. The ODI brochure gives a 2-page view of what ODI is and does, and there are different ways to stay informed of the ODI activities: newsletter, mailing list, email, and Twitter. One of the main goals of ODI is to help more content providers deliver content to discovery service providers and conform to the ODI recommended practice. So there's an FAQ for the content providers. There are conformance templates. And so far, 8 content providers, publishers, and 3 discovery service providers have published their completed conformance statements. And here are some examples on the right side. More are in progress. Some content providers also provide more detailed information about what collections and what meta they are sending to the vendors. In the past 3 or 4 years, at least 10 publishers have created new positions to focus on content discovery. Some of us have formed a Google group to discuss similar work issues. So if a publisher is designating individuals to work on content discovery, you're welcome to join us. Many publishers of various sizes and specialties are struggling to make their content available, discoverable, linkable, and accessible from discovery tools. So last year I published a paper in the Learning Publishing titled, "Should Publishers Work with Library Discovery Technologies and What Can They Do?" So the ODI Implementation Guide for content providers, which we have just posted on our website, is a shortened summary and checklist out of that paper. It is a roadmap to guide efforts for publishers. It provides specific steps on how publishers can conduct an initial assessment of the performance of their content in various tools, to form a discovery service working group or designate individuals to tackle the issues uncovered, and how to work with internal teams on internal projects to improve workflows, data quality, and content delivery, and how to collaborate with library service providers on delivering content, indexing, linking, and other related issues, and how to work with libraries to help them improve the configuration of their discovery service, link resolver, and other tools, and also how to follow ODI activities and stay informed of the industry trends and initiatives. The website also has information for libraries. If you find that your subscribed content is not available in your discovery tools, you can use some of the talking points to advocate publishers to send their content to the vendors. As we know that libraries' configurations of discovery, service, link resolver, and authentication tools play a very important part to make their subscribed content discoverable, linkable, and accessible. So the current ODI recommended practice is missing a big piece on the library responsibilities. So the publisher-provided discovery configuration guides can help libraries fulfill their part of the work. So the ODI Standing Committee is actively working on revising the ODI recommended practice. Here are some of the issues, work items recently submitted to the topic committee for approval. The library responsibilities in ODI, for instance, an ODI conformance checklist for libraries, disclose content coverage at a collection level, identify sources of records in the discovery interfaces, how to handle open access content, including hybrid OA content, and how to provide more meaningful usage stats for content providers and libraries, and how to protect fair linking and avoid bias linking, and how to address needs of ANI databases so that more ANI providers can share their data, share the content with discovery service tools, and how to identify additional metadata and content to be included in the discovery service tools. We welcome input and feedback from the library and publishing communities, and we hope our work will continue to serve your needs.
Good morning. I have the privilege of talking about the most specific working group by far, so I'm also going to try and keep my comments brief. So the automation group, the KBAR Automation group, we're going to talk about what it does, who's working on it, how it works, and then a little bit about collaboration, as much as I have time for. So what does KBAR Automation do? I was asked to generate a pithy statement. I tried. This is what I came up with. KBAR Automation employs specificity to increase accuracy. So instead of the manual exchange of multiple generic one-size-fits-few metadata sets that require customization after the fact, it delivers a single customer-specific list of accessible content per customer, per provider. So that's dense, but I will unpack it a bit. Here's the group that is working on it. It is a subgroup of the KBAR group. Familiar sets of stakeholders, content providers, libraries, and knowledge bases. And a couple of our working group members are also on the main KBAR group. So what is it trying to do? Well, we know the problem that we've already heard about a bit today of getting our users from the left-hand side and the top, from the discovery databases, websites, wherever they are, to the full text. That knowledge base sits in the middle. It's what allows the library systems to link from where the user is to the full text when it's not in the same location. So there's a lot that has to go on behind the scenes in order to enable that knowledge base to be accurate. When it's inaccurate, that causes linking problems, and either users miss things that they do have access to, or they think they have access to things they don't. Now, down here in the right corner, this is where the KBAR Automation group is trying to address an issue, which is that it shows you that the local title list can go to the library, and then the library can send a spreadsheet to the knowledge base. Well, it turns out that even when that spreadsheet is perfectly formatted in the KBAR format, it still is not easy to process and deal with on the other end. So it's been my dream to actually see that go away, the effort to actually send individual spreadsheets covering how my holdings are different from someone else's holdings. And that's really what KBAR Automation set out to do. So how does it work? We can kind of walk through. There's an initial one-time activity where the content provider sends a token that says, this is this institution and this is how I can identify them, to the library. The library sends that to the knowledge base in step 2. Those two are the one-time things, and then you switch, and the content provider, as a scheduled activity, is able to request data from the knowledge base, send data to the knowledge base, and then on request back and forth between the two. And so the holdings that the library actually, and the library's users actually have access to at the content provider is what's being sent automatically and regularly to the knowledge base. So this sounds easy, right? Well, maybe not, it's not that complex. But the devil is in the details, so many things that's true about, right? So the question is, what does that exchange look like? How can we make sure that if I'm a content provider and I want to be able to do this, that however I send the data will be able to be read by not just one knowledge base, but all of them? And so it's that process that we've been going through, trying to define what that would look like. I'm pleased to be able to share with you that alongside this, one of the members of the working group has also been sort of developing it within their company. So Springer Nature's just released this for journals, and It's actually available both for books and journals, and books, this has actually been happening kind of behind the scenes for a while with some publishers. But it is now live for Springer Nature customers who wish to do this right now, just with SFX, but OCLC and ALMA are coming soon. And a bit of strategy before I run out of time, a bit of strategy is that basically their approach was, okay, we need to move this forward, we need to figure out what our timing is. As long as I can get at least 2 of the knowledge bases to work with me on trying to make this happen, then that's enough for us to begin to work. And at the same time, alongside, then we're developing the recommended practice. And the advantage of that timing is that it really means that we can, that you can kind of be having someone implement it while you're trying to write the instructions as to how to implement it. And so it's been really good to see those things going alongside each other. So there's lots of levels of collaboration here. I'll be brief. One is within the group, deciding what we can actually tackle now and what we're willing to put off. And that's a constant thing that we see within the groups is, okay, how do we actually make progress and accomplish something, even though we have some thorny issues that we do need to deal with. KBAR Automation Working Group took that approach this time around. We're putting together sort of a phase 1. This is just how it works. And then some of the challenges that we know we will face in order to make it work more effectively are in a phase 2. So, thank you. And I forgot this. This is very important. I thought that was my last slide. It wasn't. Okay, so you can, it's open for, the recommended practice is now out for public comment. Those of you who know the NISO process, this just came out, so you can just go to the KBAR Automation webpage on the NISO site or use this link. The slides are also up on Sketch, so we invite you to join the collaboration, give us feedback on what we've put together, what questions you have, what ways you would like to see it do things differently or better.
So, last but not least, I would like to talk about another initiative by NISO, which is called Transfer. I would like to go back to the basics to start with and remind you that actually the Transfer Code of Practice originated with UKHG at the beginning, and I would like to quote the chair of UKHG in 2008, which who actually wrote in Serial's Librarian, "In the online world, a title moving between publishers becomes more of a problem because of the complex interrelationships between the parties involved in delivering full-text articles to the desktop of the readers. If certain data is not made available to one or more of these parties, or changes are not properly communicated, access can be lost." So that was the reason why the Transfer Code of Practice was actually created. It's a code of practice between publishers that actually places certain obligations on both parties involved in the journal transfer, so the transferring publisher and the receiving publisher. And the first Transfer Code of Practice was drafted in 2007, and in 2014, and that's the reason why we are here, this Code of Practice moved to the auspices of NISO. I would like to shed a light on the work which is done by this NISO Transfer Standing Committee, because it is a group, and we're talking here about collaboration across the industry. This committee is a group of 20 experts from the library and the publishing communities. And what we do is that we convene on a regular basis under the guidance of 2 co-chairs, and I would like to name them because they're doing a great job. James Philpotts from Oxford University Presses and Jennifer Baisley from Miami University, Ohio. So what are we doing when we work together within this working group? Actually, we maintain the recommended practice, and it is useful, as I said before or earlier, for both librarians and publishers. As you could see in the presentation of this session, the ISSN International Center actually got involved in the committee as soon as 2014 because we actually wanted to use the notification sent by receiving publishers to the ETAS service and use it for the purposes also of maintaining the ISSN database and also supporting the work of ISSN national centers. So what we did is that we started using the alerting service to inform the ISSN network about changes of responsibility of a publication. So it could be reflected as soon as possible in a timely manner within the ISSN database. And so finally, what happened is that we decided to join the group, NISO Transfer Group, in 2016. And these alerts, which are sent by ETAS, by this online service, were processed to actually inform our network of changes to come. So, but we encountered actually a few issues. Our national centers can only take changes into account when the publication actually bears the new information and the information about the new publisher. And also the ISSN database, that's the second issue we had, could not handle predictive information. So that was a problem we had, and actually we found a solution to that. I was talking earlier about the enhanced transfer alerting service, and this is the database, and it's free. It's publicly available, which was first developed by the Manchester Information and Associated Services at the University of Manchester in the UK, and that was the first service which was put up to actually store information about transfers, and it was created in 2012. And so that is actually the home page of the transfer of ETAS, of this alerting service, as of November 17, 2012. And this is taken out of Internet Archive because, as you will see, this page does not exist anymore, and neither does this one. So what happened to ETAS actually? Well, actually it moved to Paris, so it's a nice move to go from Manchester to Paris, and everybody would like to do that. We actually split the service into two components. The first component is the report interface, so meaning that's where we ingest information from publishers about transfers. And it's hosted by the new ISSN portal, which I will show in a few minutes. And the second service which was created was the alerting interface, which is the output. And we have a new web address for this service, which is journaltransfer.issn.org. Actually, we worked with our colleagues from NISO Transfer Standing Committee, who made some suggestions on how the input and output services should behave or should operate. And as you can see on the screen here, you have the input ingest, let's say ingest service, where receiving publishers are requested to make notifications when they buy a title or they get a new title from a transferring publisher. And so what do? They have access to the whole ISSN database, so they just have to make a search with the ISSN or with a title, or combining both. And as you can see on the right-hand side, or maybe it's too small and you cannot see, when they find the title they were looking for, then they can just declare a transfer. That's the button just on the right-hand side at the bottom. And the next step is that they have to give more information about this title, and especially give information about the transferring publisher, when will be the date of the transfer, give some information about the URL, give information, upload, for example, some documents supporting this notification or this declaration. And what happens is that in the ISSN database, as you can see here, for example, when there is a transfer which is established or given or stated, then the transfer logo from NISO Transfer Standing Committee appears on the record. Here, for example, you can see that this journal, on this interface, this is the output service, let's say. That's where you can get for free information on transfers. As you can see here, the Journal of Engineered Fibers and Fabrics will be actually transferred from INDA to Sage Publishing. You have the date. You can see the date of the transfer. It will happen on 1st of December this year. And you have more information also about digital preservation and perpetual access, because this information is also requested from the publisher when they fill in the form to declare the transfer. So this interface, the transfer one, is available for free. I was saying that earlier. And also you can subscribe to RSS feed, and you can get messages when a transfer is actually declared on this platform. You have now French and English interfaces. We would like to develop more interfaces because we would like to work with as many publishers as possible. And here I will go quickly because I'm running out of time. So you will have to, anyway, it's publicly available, so you can have a look at that. And so we also added some statistics about transfers. Okay, and if you want to know more, you can go to this page where you will get information about the work done by the Transfer Standing Committee, and also webinars and slides to explain how the whole system works. Thank you.
I know we're running low on time. If we have any questions, please come up, and the panel will stay, and we'll answer any questions you may have. If you need to go, by all means go, but if you'd like to stick around, please stick around.